Spaghetti World. As you guys know, I do love myself some horror movies from Chef Boyardee country, but sometimes their horror franchises can be slightly confusing. And the first one I want to talk about is one of my personal favorites, the Zombies franchise. It all started in Italy. Well, actually, it started in Pittsburgh, which is not somewhere you want to start your story at, with the release of Dawn of the Dead, which was retitled and recut for the Italian market as Zombie. A year later, somebody called Lucio Fulci, a maestro of horror, also known as the godfather of gore, was making his own take on the zombie genre. And one of the producers was like, "Ah, mamma mia, this is Italy, we don't care about international copyright laws." And he slapped the title Zombie 2 on Lucio Fulci's film, which is this one, that was also retitled to simply Zombie in North America and the Zombie Flesh Eaters in the UK. 9 years later, the Italians were back on their bullshit and Lucio Fulci started directing Zombie 3, which was a direct sequel to Zombie 2. However, he got sick and Bruno Mattei took the reins on the project. So far, so good, and that's pretty much where the Italian franchise finished, at Zombie 3. But this is where the producers thought to themselves, "Mamma mia, what about the international market?" And that's where our story gets a bit more confusing. After Zombie 3 was successful, I guess American and international distributors were excited to continue the franchise. So they took an Italian film made by Claudio Fragasso, don't forget that name because he's really important in this whole confusing franchise Italian thing, and that film was called After Death, but they retitled it to Zombie 4 After Death. Now this is the first time where we see a movie that has nothing to do with the zombie franchise being retitled to Zombie, and this film was made in 1989. Then in the early 2000s, an American distributor named Shriek Show, who was kind of well known for being a pioneer of releasing these really dark European horror titles on DVDs in North America, had a little movie called Killing Birds by Joe D'Amato. But they didn't know what to do with that movie because Joe D'Amato wasn't really well known, so they were like, let's slap Zombie 5 Killing Birds on the title. So this movie not only doesn't have anything to do with zombies, it barely has any killing birds, thus making this one completely bullshit. This was never even originally a zombie title. It was just Shriek Show was like, we gotta sell copies of Killing Birds, man. Nobody wants to buy Killing Birds. But that is not where our story ends. That would be way too simple, and the Italians are everything but simple. So again, in the UK, they followed a pretty logical sequence. Zombie Flesh Eaters, which was Zombie 2 in Italy. Zombie 3 was renamed Zombie Flesh Eaters 2, and then After Death was sometimes called Zombie Flesh Eaters 3, sometimes called just After Death, and then they were lucky enough to never experience Killing Birds. The Germans, however, had a completely different franchise. Dawn of the Dead was Zombie 1, Day of the Dead was Zombie 2. So far so good because they're both George A. Romero movies and they're both sequels, they're related. And then they had Zombie 3, which was actually Zombie 3. Where did Zombie 2 go? I don't fucking know. Thailand decided to go with the Zombie Flesh Eaters title, so they had Zombie 2, aka Zombie Flesh Eaters 1, Zombie 3, aka Zombie Flesh Eaters 2, but then they added Zombie 4, aka Zombie Flesh Eaters 3, and then they were like, fuck it, Killing Birds 2, so we had Zombie Flesh Eaters 4. But nobody had it as confusing as Kangaroo Country, aka Australia.
A fucking VB long neck.
So Australia basically started with the same model as all the other countries, with this one being Zombie 2, this one being Zombie 3, which is confusing because Dawn of the Dead over there is called Dawn of the Dead, so Zombie 2 is just Zombie 2, a sequel to something, I guess. But then, at the fourth one, they decided to go silly, and Zombie 4 is a movie called Panic. I don't know what that is. Zombie 5 is Vengeance of the Zombie, a film made in 1973, so the fifth entry in the Australian zombie series is actually a movie that came out even before Dawn of the Dead. Australia even had a Zombie 6, The Mirage they call it, which was just Dawn of the Mummy, a 1982 film. But wait, there's more, because there is Zombie 7 is again a film from 1975 which was titled Night of the Seagulls, but in Australia they were like Zombie 7, The Last Rites. And then those silly kangaroo hunters had Zombie 8 Urban Decay, which is a 2020 film from director Dustin Ferguson that I've watched, and spoiler alert, I gave that half star on Letterboxd just to tell you how good it is.
No one else lived out here.
No. He said no human lived out here.
But let's take this moment to go back to Freedom Country, which was kind of simple, right? You were just basically following the Shriek Show DVDs franchise. Well, not in the 90s, because everyone was free to use the title zombie, because you can't copyright a word like zombie. So distributors were like, heh, fuck it. So Zombie 3 was also the Paul Naschy film's Vengeance of the Zombie, which again was made in 73, a couple years before Dawn of the Dead. There was a Zombie 4, which was Jess Franco's movie A Virgin Among the Living Dead, which by the way, that's a hood classic. And then they had Zombie 5, which was Oasis of the Zombie, another Jess Franco film, that one not much of a hood classic. But this is America. Why stop at 5 movies when you can randomly retitle Joe D'Amato's Monster Hunter to Zombie 6 Monster Hunter? Now let's go over the titles that you might see if you search zombie something in a movie database. First of all, Let the Sleeping Corpses Lie. That's a Spanish movie. It has nothing to do with Dawn of the Dead or the Zombies franchise. Then you have Zombie Holocaust, aka Dr. Butcher MD, which is an amazing movie, but again, nothing to do with the franchise, but somebody somewhere just retitled it Zombie 3, Zombie Holocaust, or some shit like that. Bruno Mattei, he's back. He made Hell of the Living Dead, which in some market is retitled Zombie 3. Not to be confused with the actual Zombie 3, which he co-directed. For reals that time. Nightmare City, Umberto Lenzi, classic film, was also retitled as Zombie 3. You see the pattern there? It's because between Zombie 2 and Zombie 3 there were 9 years, so that's 9 years for people to exploit the title and to just confuse people some more. Then Jess Franco, Oasis of the Zombie, again, hood classic, was also retitled as Zombie 4, Zombie 3, just because. German SOV pioneer Andreas Schnaas, director of the Violent Shit franchise, also dipped his toes into the zombie world with Zombie 90 Extreme Pestilence. Where did the 80 other zombies movie go? There were probably other movies that were just retitled that in Germany, because I would believe that. And finally, my favorite, in Pakistan, the movie Pulgazari, which is a kaiju film made in North Korea, was retitled as Zombie the Communist Bull Monster. You can't make that shit up. What the fuck, Pakistan? So, the next franchise I want to bring up is the La Casa franchise, which you're probably like, oh, spooky, that's easy. That's the American horror comedy series House, because if you're fluent in Italian, like your boy is, it means house. That would make too much sense, and if you've been following me, Italians aren't fan of just straightforward, sensical titling of movies. So yeah, the La Casa franchise is actually Evil Dead by Sam Raimi. So you're like, okay, La Casa 1, Evil Dead, that's simple. La Casa 2, Evil Dead 2. Logically, La Casa 3 would be Army of Darkness. But no, it's actually Umberto Lenzi's film Ghost House, which is not at all a ripoff of Evil Dead. It doesn't really have anything similar to Evil Dead. It's just a movie that happens in a house, so they're like La Casa 3. And then we get La Casa 4, which is witchery. another Italian ghost film, and then, as I said, we got to remember Claudio Fragasso, or as he's known here, Clyde Anderson, with La Casa 5, which is his film Beyond Darkness. And then there's of course La Casa 6, which is House 2. Why not House 1? Why didn't they call House La Casa from the beginning? I don't know, man. And then La Casa 7 is House 3, which is not even a real house movie. It's a movie called Horror Show. So La Casa 7 is actually the unofficial House 3, which is just a movie called The Horror Show that has nothing to do with either House or Evil Dead. This was a fun video, I hope you liked it. If you liked it, I can talk about so many other confusingly nonsensical franchises from Italy. There's the Troll franchise, the Ator franchise, all the fake Mad Max movies, the Emmanuel franchise. Fuck me if I have to talk about the entirety of the goddamn Black Emmanuel franchise. I'll be here for hours. Anyways, see you guys next week with a regular review, because this was way too much research.